Welcome to another live episode of Halftime Adjustments. It's your host, Eddie Arnell, my man G Witt, and my other man, baby. Mr. J. Lou.
Tighten up, baby. I'm glad to be here another night, fellas.
Another night, man. We've had a lot to go on for our Tennessee Titans, man, and got some first live action of the 2021 season, the 2021 version of these Titans, and 23-3 against the Falcons is preseason, is week one. And, didn't play a lot of starters, but, you got to like what you saw, in particular on the defensive side of the ball. And let me throw out some stats real quick, and then I'll let y'all tear it up, man, because one thing that we limped on last year and we struggled with was third down conversions. And the Falcons for the game was 2 for 12 on third down conversions. Now, the pundits would say, oh, they didn't play. They played backups. Third team was, fourth team was. The Titans did too.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
And 138 total yards of offense and 5 sacks. And so, guys, so far, what did you see? The defense lived up to the hype that we've been hearing out of camp, right?
Yeah, I think that the defense definitely. I think all off season we kept hearing the players, especially the ones coming back, talking about communication. That seemed to be the trigger word, the key word this year. Right. And you could see that whatever they meant from communication definitely was true, because it looked like the defense was just called by Bowen. You didn't have Vrabel. A lot of time I kept looking when they showed Vrabel on the sidelines a lot when the defense was out, and you see his little earpiece thing turned up, which means you ain't got your mic on, you're just listening. Right. And I was glad to see that. And they just looked like they were firing on all cylinders. I mean, even the few starters that we did play, they really came out with it aggressively. I mean, it had shades of 2019 to me. And I know, again, it's first preseason game and first live action we've seen. You got to remember, we didn't see no preseason last year, but it's nice to see what we've heard and seen out of training camp carry over to some live game action.
Absolutely, man, because that was the one thing I noticed from the get-go was the aggressiveness of the defense in the secondary as well as with the front seven. They were really getting after it. Freshmen, you saw mistakes here and there, but overall what you like to see was the aggressiveness of the defense attacking the offense instead of like they did last year, laying back and waiting for the offense to come to them. They took the game to the offense of the Atlanta Falcons, and you saw the end result of that. A.J. McCarron was running for his life back there, as well as Felipe Franks. And you just saw a lot of good things out of the defense in this game, which is what we wanted to see. You saw some good plays, you saw some standout players, but overall, I thought it was a good showing by the defense. And like you said, Eddie, the bottom line was people could say that we were playing against their seconds, but we were playing our seconds too, and our seconds were still winning the ball game, and that's what you want to see.
Right, and let's just, give credit where credit is due, right? Even if I don't care if it was second or third, this is our team, and it looked good. So, we got to be happy. Be happy with what we saw. It's a vast improvement so far for this defense from what we've seen in 2020, right? And so you like the fact, and Mr. J. Lee, you bring out a great point, is that, with one voice on the field in the earphone of the green dot helmet, right, and of the whole defense, it seems like there's more continuity already. We've heard that the defensive line has been aggressive in camp, and they've been dominating the line of scrimmage. And you saw that the other night. Murchison played. He got a sack. We didn't have our big dogs in there, big Danico or Jeffrey, man. But the guys that played that front seven was aggressive. And I really like what Shane Bowen did. And I know y'all saw it. He ran some cover zero blitzes. And so that tells you right there, he's got some confidence in his cornerbacks.
Well, I tell you one thing I noticed, speaking of those cover zero blitzes, outside of the 3rd and 20 plus that they had, we were 2 yards off the ball on our DBs. Like, we wasn't giving 8, 9, 10-yard cushions. So I mean, we were playing that press defense. And to your point, Big Merch came to play. Tart, you like to see again our backups, that building that depth. When we can have our ones out, you're glad to see that you can have your twos come in, and it's not a big drop off at all. So I did like those. I like the cover blitzes, and I like what I've seen from the DBs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And I also enjoyed what I saw from the safeties as well, because Amani Hooker was pretty much all over the field. So I really enjoyed watching him come up and run coverage as well as in pass coverage and everything. So I just thought overall the defense just again, like you said, the front seven, the defensive line was aggressive. They were pushing the pocket. I mean, you know, they were living in the backfield. AJ McCarron did not have all day to throw the ball.
No.
And so I think he only had one good pass, but it ended up not counting because of a penalty. So, and when he came back, they got after him. So I like the aggressiveness of Shane Bourne. I like what he did. And I like the way the players played. I mean, I thought they were just like, we're not going through what we went through last year.
I got one thing I noticed on third down when the starters was in. I think the starters played maybe 3 series. Did you recognize on third down and go back and watch the game? Our linebackers on third down were Jayon Brown and Long.
Yeah,
Evans was on the sideline, and that's what we was all screaming about last year was for him not to be on that field. And if we can go with Evans, if we can go with Brown and Long, good coverage, nothing dropped off. I really think that helped, that we can really see that third down defense turn this year.
But and going along with that, you know, even when he was in there and they did pass the ball, the thing you liked that you saw was the fact that at least he was reading the play, was in position to make a tackle. And that's the one thing that was driving me crazy last year. We know his cover skills are not there, but at least, you know, he wasn't making tackles. I mean, people were just running away from him. So, you know, you saw that one pass play where they threw to the tight end coming across the middle. At least he was there, so it wasn't a long gain. He got a tackle there. And then the other time that he dropped back in zone coverage and actually went with the either it was a receiver, I believe, and actually shaded him. So, you know, that's what you want to see. You know, the thing about Rashad Evans is that there was no confusion in his play. He knew what he was supposed to be doing, and he did it. And that's what I want to see out of him. I want to see that confidence in him that we saw in 2019 and not that uncertainty that we saw in 2020.
Exactly. And so a lot to be excited for, man. Like I said, this defense has been advertised a lot here the last few weeks about how aggressive they've been creating turnovers in camp. And you saw that they almost had 2 picks. You know, Breon Borders' pick hit the ground. But David Long, like you, to your point, G, he comes underneath on the cover 2 coverage and shades underneath the receiver and actually, you know, kind of baited AJ McCarron into that throw. But you like to see that, man. David Long is we talked about him the last couple of seasons, that he's the guy that, you know, that can play coverage, he can tackle, he has a nose for the football. And, you know, Rashad Evans, he might be losing a little player time if it keeps going like that for him in camp.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you think about it, if he can't be out there on third down, that's going to limit his effectiveness. So yeah, you're going to run into that because David Long Jr. plays the run almost as well as Rashad Evans does. So yeah, you know, he's going to step up. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. The competition is definitely there. You see that on the field. You see the competition there because you saw everybody trying to make plays, you know, and trying to be effective on defense.
Deion says we didn't use the Jonathan Joseph cover 0 scheme. So you're right about that.
I was thinking that, but I just didn't get a chance to see it.
Yeah, Frank, we'll be there tomorrow, man, at the practice. So we'll talk more about that in a minute. But you know, some interesting injuries coming out of this preseason game, and you hate to see it. And I'm point out in particular Darrington Evans. You know, he has an issue with staying healthy. And, you know, I feel bad for the young man because he was actually running the ball pretty good. You know, he came up with a knee issue. You know, they say he's day to day. But, you know, right now, if he's not able to contribute as that second running back, you know, there is a question mark, a big question mark. But I think we'll be in good hands. And we'll talk about this young man later. But, you know, Darrington Evans, you had Trayvon Coley, defensive tackle. He was playing pretty good. He hurt his foot. They said he's day to day. He's going to see a doctor on tomorrow, I believe. And then Brady Breeze and Tucker Man, and we'll talk more about that in a minute. The kicking game was excellent. I will say that for a change, and we'll talk more about that in a minute. But Darrington Evans, guys, you know, he's catching a lot of tough breaks right now, and hopefully he can stay healthy to be that number 2 running back.
Yeah, I think the silver lining, because I'm not gonna lie, I was shocked to hear them say knee, because when you see the play, I thought it was a hamstring pull.
I did too.
And so to hear them say knee, and then to hear them say day to day, and I think when Vrabel had his practice press conference today, they didn't mention anything about MRI.
Right.
So I think that's a blessing for him. But I think at this point you try to keep Evans' head in it, because to your point, Ed, I mean, he went down last season, couldn't get over the injury bug. You don't want it to become a mental thing now for him. So if they can get him healthy, he was running the ball. I like to see him. He was running the ball in between the tackles. And I know that's something G. Witt brought up last week, that if we need him to be on the field and be a threat, he's got to run between the tackles, and he was hitting hard between the tackles. So you're just hoping that, he can get a week or two off and come back and stay strong.
Exactly. Yeah, because that zone blocking scheme fits him perfectly, man. And he was hitting the hole and going for some good yardage, even on the sweeps and everything. On the end of rounds, he was doing some good running. The only thing that scares me about that injury, man, was that it was a non-contact injury.
Exactly.
So you just don't know what the problem is. I mean, I know Vrabel's saying day to day, but that is almost like we don't really know what the problem is, and they're still trying to figure it out. But I hated that for him, because, like you said, Eddie, he was running the ball extremely well. He came out running the ball great, and I was like, okay, this is what we need to see. But, again, this is going to be one of those things we just got to work through, man. Again, we got to find that backup that's going to be able to spell Derrick Henry, because you could tell by the way they're using Derrick Henry in camp, and by the fact that he didn't even travel with the team this weekend, they don't want to wear him out.
Exactly.
They're looking to conserve him as much as they possibly can.
Yeah, I mean, look at what he's done in the past couple of seasons. He's had over 300 carries. And so, going into year 6, they've got to protect that investment, that horse, that golden goose, because without him, that offense is not going to work. So, so guys, let's change gears for a moment. Let me ask you this. Your first impression of the play calling from Todd Downing and Shane Bowen, new coordinators this year, had some questions about Downing and his play calling ability. Wanted to know how Shane was going to be. Was he going to be aggressive? Was he going to sit back? And I think we got our answer already, but I'll go to you first, G. With your first impression of the play calling on both sides of the football from week 1.
Well, we've already talked about the play calling on the defensive side of the ball, and we thought it was great as far as the aggressiveness concerned and the coverages that they had. We thought they did an extremely good job. I thought offensively they did well, knowing that it's purely vanilla.
Mm-hmm.
I thought they did well, but of course, on the offensive side of the ball, the biggest problem was they just had issues with executing the plays. I thought it was a good mix of run and pass. Play action was good and very effective, but I thought it was pretty good. I have no complaints about the play calling and everything, because he even dialed up some aggressive downfield plays and everything, and receivers made catches. Mm-hmm. That's what you like to see. But again, I thought the biggest problem you had on offense, really, especially I would say for the first quarter and a half, was the offensive line not really blocking well. And then on top of that, Logan Woodside not getting rid of the ball before the blitz hit him. That every time I watch it, I'm like, dude, can you not see the man coming up the middle?
Yeah. That's a concern for me. We'll talk more about that, man. But go ahead, Mr. J. Lee, your impressions.
Yeah, I kind of agree with G. Witt. We already talked about defense, so I was glad to see Bowen. I mean, I had a tear in my eye when I saw the first man coverage, man press. Just to see press. So I think he was very aggressive and played to the strength, and had some disguised blitzes in there. You kind of knew you were going to get blitzes from both sides of the team's plan, given the defensive coordinator for the other team as well. Offensively, even though we ran vanilla, I'll say the one concern that I had, and again, it's early, and I'm hoping it changes. I still don't like when we go 3 wide receivers. None of the wide receivers are outside the numbers. When they're all inside the numbers and kind of bunched up, I think you're just giving the defense too much of an opportunity to stay inside the box. Mm-hmm. So that'd be my one thing. I think we did a nice job utilizing the fullback. If you notice, we had a lot of runs where we did have the fullback in there and utilizing both fullbacks that we got on the team. And it was good to see some of the tight ends making some catches and some of the depth at wide receiver. But again, Woodside's got to learn to get rid of the ball a little faster. I think he was doing that once he settled down and took a few of those shots. I was glad to see some of the deep balls come down the field too. But yeah, I'm like you, G. Witt. Every time they were putting, I mean, it's like they wasn't disguising it either. I think they realized after the first blitz, they knew he wasn't picking it up the middle, and they was coming straight up the middle. So I'm sure they would kill them. I'm sure they'll clean that up this week. But overall, I think for both guys' first game calling it in real action, they both did a phenomenal job.
Yeah, and I agree with both of you guys. Actually, if you look at the offense and if you really critiqued it, it really didn't look different from what we had last season. I mean, you saw some of the same stuff. You saw a lot of the play action. You saw some zone runs. You saw some, play action off the zone run kind of boot out. a little bit. And I agree with you, both of you, when you said Woodside's holding on to that ball too long. I was like, throw the ball, So he's got to get better at that. That's another concern of mine, which we'll talk about more on the show, is the backup quarterback position. And we'll go into depth in that. But Shane Bowen, I really like what I saw out of him. Real aggressive, like we already mentioned. And I just like the cover zero, man. That just shows you the confidence they have in the secondary that they brought in this year. And not only that, but the front that you got going along with it.
And
right?
That's the whole key. That's the whole key. The confidence they had in the front to run that cover zero, because the bottom line, the front had to be expected to get pressure on the quarterback. And, when you're watching and you saw them coming, there wasn't a 4 or 5 second time the quarterback had to stand back there to get rid of the ball. They had to move when they held the ball on a little longer. But basically they had about, from what I can see, about 2.5 seconds to get rid of the ball with the pressure that was coming up. And a lot of the other good thing about the front seven, a lot of pressure came from up the middle,
right? Which
is really what you want to see. And you're talking about with the defensive linemen and everything, the pressure came up the middle and they were collapsing that pocket, which forced AJ McCarron and Felipe Franks to move and get out, to get outside of the pocket. We had some containment issues that we saw, but other than that, though, with the front seven, that's something. Containment issues is something you got to clean up. But with the front seven, I thought the aggressiveness of coming up the middle was exactly what we needed to see.
Yeah, and we kind of were talking about, who was going to step up and be that nose tackle, that presence, outside of Danico Archer and Jeffrey Simmons. And Tia Tart, all we've been hearing from him and about him in camp is that he's been dominating the interior line. And you saw that again Friday night, which, very exciting to see that. We already mentioned Trevon Coley and Murchison. So you got some guys there that's going to provide some quality depth and, cause some issues for offensive line, especially in the interior.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And so let's move on. So I know I had listed on the notes 3 things that stood out, but there were several things. We can do more than 3 because there were several things as I was thinking about my list. Number one, I'll say, and somebody's already mentioned it, that Rashawn Weaver looks like he's the real deal. Oof. Me and Mr. Jet was texting back and forth, man, and talking about he was a grown man. The guy was 6'5", 265 pounds, and he looks every bit of it. And I'm not going to even mention his pressure because we'll get in that in just a second. But him setting the edge, to me, was awesome because that's something that we didn't have very, very well last year. No, too impressive last year. You got a guy that can set the edge, and so now if Bud Dupree doesn't play for the first 3 or 4 weeks, you got somebody that can set the edge opposite of Harold Landry.
Man, I'm just going to say this about that Joker, man. I was thoroughly impressed with his play. Again, like you said, setting the edge, playing the run as well as the pass, which I thought was great. He had a couple of times where he lost containment, but, he's a rookie. Those things are going to happen. Yeah. But really, they only gave him 1.5 sacks. Truthfully, the man probably had 3.
Yeah.
He expected at least 3 of them with his pressure coming up. He was absolutely blowing those offensive linemen off the line of scrimmage, man. And I just was just so impressed with his play and his aggressiveness. A couple of times he slipped and fell, but as far as just getting out there and getting with it, man, that Joker boy, he wreaked havoc. And we hadn't seen anybody like that on our side of the defense in a long time. Right. So if he's going to be a backup, that means Harold Landry and Bud Dupree are probably going to be bringing the noise, man. And it's going to be ugly for some offenses that they can come out and play. I'm telling you.
Virgil Mosley said he wears 99 better than the previous 99.
Hey, we ain't talking about that. We ain't talking about that. I don't even know who they're talking about. I'm talking about Brother Weaver.
Now I'll say the other draft pick, Monty Rice.
Yeah.
He played pretty good. Both on the defensive side of the ball, the draft picks that we drafted, they were able to play, and even the undrafted rookies, they all played very well. And again, I think that just goes to what we've heard about how far ahead the defense is in camp.
Right.
And you saw that carry over to the field. Another thing that I think carried over, Ed, that I saw was just, we hear about camp, we hear about the depth at wide receiver. I don't think we realize it until you see it on the field. And let's just point out the fact, the 4th round draft pick that we moved up to go get didn't really make an impact at all. He might find himself trying to find a spot on this team now.
Man, he's struggling right now.
Yes.
He's struggling. And I went back and rewatched the game, man. And truth be known, he looked lost out there, man.
Yes.
I'm just gonna be honest, because and I know what it is, man. He comes out of a spread offense in college, so he's having to learn to do some different things. His blocking leaves a lot to be desired. You know, you saw that. I mean, he missed on one running play when they had a 3rd and 1. He just totally missed his block. He made the wrong read and allowed his man to come on through. So that's what I was looking at him, and I was like, man, yeah, he's struggling. But, you know, again, give Vrabel his credit in his press conference today. He said, hey, look, he just has to continue to work. He does some things good, some things not so good. He just got to continue to work and everything. So that's what you got to see out of him. But, yeah, it's going to be tough on him. It's because just like it's going to be, to me, tough on Fred Brown.
Yes.
I was watching him, and I was like, his route running leaves a lot to be desired, man.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, dude, you can't even sell an inside to go up. I was like, it's just not going to work. No, the one who actually showed up out of those 3, you might as well say, was Kinsley.
Yeah, I was going to bring him up next.
Is the one who showed up. I mean, you know, and he made catches when the ball came to him. So, you know, you like to see that. But, Fitzpatrick, man, he's going to have he's going to struggle. He might find himself on the practice squad, man.
Oh, yeah. Right. And, you know, speaking of Kinsley, you like how he caught the ball with his hands.
Yes.
You know, ran some crisp routes, got open. And he's making a case for that number 4 receiver, man. He is.
Yeah.
He's making a great case. Somebody brought that up in the chat, and I appreciate that. Let me mention Wyatt Ray had a sack and a half. He you know, some more pressure up front. We talked about Murchison, Ola Adeniyi from Pittsburgh, the guy we picked up. He had a sack and a tackle for loss. And so those are some things that really stood out. Let's talk about these guys for a minute, because, you know, this was a concern that we've been talking about in the entire camp, is the field goal team, the kickers. You know, Tucker McMahon, Sam Ficken, both 3 for 3 on field goals. They look great. You know, the snaps look great. The protection was great. And so you like to see that, you know, and Vrabel, you got to give him some credit, because he was playing into those situations where he wanted to kick a long field goal to see the pressure these guys can handle. And it was genius on his part to get these guys some opportunities to kind of help solidify that position.
Yeah, I think Ficken did the first extra point, if I'm not mistaken, and that might have been the worst kick of all of them, because I think that's the one that got slightly inside the goalpost.
Right.
After that, you saw him settle down, and I mean, they were sharp. They were right between the lines, and I agree with you, Ed. I like to see, you know, Vrabel is doing what you're supposed to do in the preseason.
There you go.
Figure out things you're supposed to do in real game situations. So I had no problem with him playing 4 field goals to get them some kicking. Now you hate to see McMahon go down with the injury, and you hope again that's nothing that is too serious. But I felt a little bit more comfortable after this weekend, especially seeing them in some real live game situations. And again, to go perfect, that's a win for any Titan fan, because we was all holding our breath on field goal kicking last year.
Right.
Oh, absolutely. But and the thing about it that you liked about it, again, like you said, J. Lou, I mean, the balls were going right down the pipe. You know, right down the middle between the goalposts, especially from McMahon, man. He was actually hitting those really down the middle. His kickoffs were good. His kickoffs were making it to the end zone. That's the one thing after I saw them make the field goals, I was looking at the kickoffs and seeing how deep they were getting. And McMahon was actually getting the ball a little bit deeper than the other guy. So I really hate seeing him go down with that injury. And really, when they looked at the tape, I know that it's on my man Forrestall, because he let his man go. He didn't block him, you know. So and granted, the guy shouldn't run into him anyway, but those things happen in football. So my only concern about McMahon now is the fact that with that injury on his kicking leg, how's it going to affect him?
Right.
You know, obviously they're saying he's day to day. They're going to see how it goes and everything, but how's it going to affect him? Because that could affect his accuracy. Because like we said, he was actually very clean on all of his kicks.
Exactly. And so those are some things. One more person I'm going to bring up, because he deserves some recognition as well. And speaking of the backup running back, Mekhi Sargent. So here's a guy that ran the football great, physical. You know, Hill ran the ball great as well. And so I don't think we'll be in a bad position, so to say, if Darrington Evans doesn't prove to stay healthy during the season. I think they like Mekhi Sargent because he runs so hard in camp, and you know how he hits the hole, and you saw that in the game Friday night. And so you know, he definitely stuck out as a player to watch and to potentially make this team. And as of right now, he could be the second running back. It depends on the health of Evans.
Yeah, absolutely. And the one thing I will say about Sargent, man, that he did run the ball good. And I thought that was another player, you know, you tell he was a rookie. Once he settled down after that first carry, you know, once he settled down after that, he actually was picking his holes well. You saw him catch on a screen pass and take it and get a first down out of it. That's the thing you want to see out of him. He gives you those options and everything. He's quick enough to do that, but he runs strong between the tackles. Again, once the offensive line settled down and started creating those holes, you saw him hitting them, and he was running. He was getting like 10 yards on 10 yards on those runs, which is what you want to see. So, you know, and still you got McNichols also. So it's going to be one of those things. But Darrington Evans, man, he's I don't want to say he's snake bitten, man, but you know, that injury scares me because it was a non-contact injury. And he came up and went straight out of bounds with it. So
right, exactly. And man, you saw Chester Rogers returning punts. You saw Cam and Baston play good, returning kicks and punts. And so there's some guys that are standing out in particular on this team that you look to probably make that 53-man roster when it's all said and done. And so we had some things that stick out. So what are some areas of concern that you guys watch? And let me bring up this first thing real quick. We've already kind of talked about the running back and the quarterback position backups, and we can talk more about that in a second. But to me, and this is just me, and y'all can agree or disagree, but opposite of Jackrabbit, Christian Fulton kind of struggled at the beginning of that game for what I saw. Now he came on later on and you know, and picked up his game and made some good breakups, but he struggled in man-to-man coverage at the beginning. Now, if Caleb Farley is not ready, he's probably not going to be ready to play week 1 or, you know, week 4 or whatever it might be. What do we do at the opposite corner? Because that's a concern of mine.
Well, I think what they hope then, and this is my one thing that I give you a little bit of hope, Ed. I think you have Borders play that other outside because Borders, he's long. Yeah. And I mean, he had game experience last year and he played well. I mean, he made some good breaks on the ball and was in position. So I would think you would probably put him on the outside. And that's when you're hoping that you put Slide Molden maybe down into the slot, which we all think he'd be the slot. I think that would be the contingency plan if we can't get Farley to go for week 1 or week 4.
I understand where you're coming from with it. And I'm willing to just wait to this second preseason game to see how he does. Like you said, he struggled at the beginning, but he did settle down and he did come on and make some good plays and everything. So it's sort of typical of what they've been saying about him in camp. You know, he was struggling and they got on him about it. And then next thing you know, he started being aggressive. He started making picks. You know, he started knocking passes down. So I'm willing to let that first couple of series go by. Just like I would say, the biggest concern I have, I know they were talking about Logan Woodside and his throwing the ball. They said he had a good day and everything. Me personally, I thought at the beginning he really struggled.
He did.
A lot of his passes were late. A lot of his passes were behind the man. You know, receivers made good catches.
Cam Basson.
But I will say that back shoulder throw he threw to Cam Basson for the touchdown was a great throw. And a couple of other ones he threw to Kinsey was a good throws and everything. So I'm not sure. The jury is still out on him. And again, you got your other boy that's coming in, the golden boy from
Matt Barkley.
Matt Barkley.
California dreaming.
who actually looked good throwing the ball. But you also got to see some of the reasons why he struggled to even find a home in the league because he throws to the wrong people sometimes. He's a bit inaccurate. So the backup quarterback position is really my area of concern right now because I'm just not seeing anything that gives me confidence that if something happens with Tannehill, we got somebody that's going to be able to manage the offense and help us win games. I just don't see it yet.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, G. I'm the same way with the running back position. We have no backup plan for either one of those positions, and these are the two positions on your team that really drive your offense. And you know, minus those two guys,
Yeah.
You know, where do the Titans turn for help in those positions? And so the backup quarterback position is going to be an area of concern up until week 1, until we see either Woodside or Barkley, you know, make progression to get better in those roles. And so any other areas of concern? I'm gonna say just one other thing. Go ahead.
My biggest, so y'all said G Witt said quarterback, you said running back. I say the one thing that'll keep both of them healthy, and that's that O-line. The O-line depth scares me to death.
Yes.
Like, I mean, it's almost non-existent.
Ooh,
like, I mean, it's that, and I will say this about the rookie Dillon. You saw him play better when he was in his natural position at right tackle. I think in the late second quarter, going into the second half, when the offensive line really started to settle down. But he's not built to be on the guard and being inside. I know he had to play that because of some injuries, and they're trying to make him more diverse in his position. But the O-line depth, if we lose any of the top 5, I don't know if we lose any of the top 5, then you got to bring the backup quarterback and the backup running back into play, because I mean, I don't see Tannehill surviving behind a backup offensive line. And so that was my one area of concern that really struggled all game, was the offensive line.
Yeah, and I agree with you, because after you look at the first 5, you know, minus the right tackle, you know, either Sambrailo or Dillon or whoever's going to play that right tackle position, Kendall Lamb, you got Quisenberry, you got Lamb, you got Aaron Brewer. Those guys were on the team last year, minus Lamb, of course. He played for Cleveland. But those are the guys that you got in your 8 to 9 guys. And so after that, there's not much quality there. And somebody, I think it was Dion that brought it up, man, and it said that the depth of the offensive line is not good. And yeah, Lamonte, we know it wasn't the ones, but we're just saying the quality of the backups is a problem, because if some of your starters go down, who you gonna fill in with if your backups are not good?
Hey, listen, no, it wasn't the ones, but you got to remember they wasn't playing against the ones in that game, and that's the thing you got to deal with. Jabbar, to your point that you've been saying for the past couple of weeks, that center, man, that center boy, he leaves a lot to be desired. There's no wonder he's been bouncing around from team to team. I mean, his reads on the line, man, are just horrendous.
Yeah.
The rookie that came in, the undrafted rookie free agent that came in and played most of the second half, did a much better job.
He did a real good job
than Muncie did, and then that just lets you know, man. I want to see that rookie, that undrafted free agent come in and play with the ones or play against the twos, and come in the game early to see, because he seemed to. I would say this: when he was in the game, there was a lot more cohesiveness on that offensive line as far as what they needed to do. And they were actually had some series where they were gaining a yard or 2 yards just with their push once he was in there.
Oh, yeah.
But the other guy, Muncie, man, he just wasn't reading what was in front of him.
Right.
I mean, you think about it, with a lot of those blitzes that came up the middle, it's because he went to double team somebody instead of looking at who was in front of him. I'm like, dude, you got to get the man that's in front of you first. It wasn't a delayed blitz. So, I'm like, you're not even paying attention. So, that just concerns me. And again, like you said, the right side of the line too, that was a problem all night long. I mean, like I said, Rundis did good. But, Quisenberry he struggled.
Right.
He struggled. I'm like,
struggled.
So we got to get Aaron Brewer healthy.
Yep.
We got the front 5, the top 5 healthy. But to me, I want to see what that undrafted rookie free agent play center. I want to see what he can do against, I'm going to say, better quality talent, and how he can play against them.
I think what we're seeing, and it's evident in all of our comments from the game. You saw that the Titans went into the offseason saying, okay, offense, we don't need to change nothing. We're gonna go with them soldiers, the same soldiers we had, and we're gonna be fine on offense. Rebuild the defense from top to bottom. And you see that when it goes down to depth, because we're talking about the 3rd, 4th, 5th string defensive tackle. There wasn't a drop off. So you've built some depth on the defensive side of the ball. I hope that doesn't come back to bite us on the offensive side of the ball this year with injuries in the extra game, et cetera. So you're hoping that this is an offense that's built to, has to stay healthy in order for us to make some noise.
Yeah, and I'm gonna say this because I know we talked about him the last few weeks. I know Mitchell Schwartz must not be healthy, because he has not been picked up. he's a right tackle, Pro Bowl caliber tackle, and he must not be there because nobody.
Yeah, I agree. It's got to be something a little bit more concerned. I think his was a back injury.
It was a back,
so it's got to be a little bit more concerned because you're right. There's nothing on the rumor waivers about him at all. So I think he's still hurt.
Right. Yeah, I think his back is just when you're an offensive lineman and you got back issues, that's going to be a major concern. And if he hasn't had surgery or anything like that, then he's going to struggle. But I was laughing at Deion's post. He's like, Muncie is a human turnstile, and that's exactly the way he played. Right. He was he just like, if you come up the middle, you can have it.
Olay, right?
But that's the thing about it. That offensive line is a concern because we all know the game is won and lost in the trenches.
Exactly.
So they have got to find that depth that they need in the middle of the line as well as on the tackle side, especially the right tackle side, because, we have no clue of how probably Sombrero is going to play.
Mm-hmm.
We saw him on the left side last year and it wasn't that great. So we have no clue as to how he's going to play on the right side. He may be good.
Right.
He may be good. You never know. The right side is a little bit different, but he's going to show it to me because I know what he played last year. He had to cover for Taylor Lewan. It was a struggle. It was a big time struggle. So I'm interested to see how all that's going to work. But yeah, that offensive line depth really concerns me. I'm like you guys. They got to get that. What little depth they got to get it healthy.
Yeah, and I agree with you, Taylor. The waiver wire can be a good source of fixing some of those issues as far as depth on the offensive line. And J-Rob, I'm sure he's doing his homework to try to find some help for this team, if it comes down to it. And so as we move on, and so we were breaking down positions the past few weeks, and so we're down to the offensive line. We kind of almost just really talked about them at this point, and so we'll keep on moving because we've talked about the offensive line and our concerns there. So now we look at the last quarter of the schedule, the fourth quarter, and we'll kind of briefly go through that. So after a bye week on week 13, they got Jacksonville at home again, which we already kind of talked about them a little bit. I got to see Trevor Lawrence a little bit. As they were playing against Cleveland, not too bad, typical rookie holding the ball long, happy feet in the pocket. And so, by the time we play, we'll see what happens, but how was their O-line? That's the other thing. The offensive line is questionable still.
Very questionable.
If the offensive line is not good, then he's going to have a long season. He's going to have a long career until they adjust it. And so, it is what it is. So, but the next week though, after that week 14 matchup, you got week 15 on the road against the Pittsburgh Steelers. And, this is always a drag out, knockdown matchup. And one thing I know that Mike Tomlin said is that they wanted to be more physical running the football. After what they did last year, they didn't have a running game. They relied on Big Ben, and we saw how that led them. And he, his arm was questionable at times. Me and Mr. J. Lou talked about that a lot on Midweek Heat. And so they go out and they draft Najee Harris, which is a great running back for Alabama. But they do have some concerns on the offensive line. Maurice Pouncey, he retired. David DeCastro, they released him due to a nagging ankle injury. They added some to the defense with Melvin Ingram. They still got T.J. Watt. They still got Mika Fitzpatrick, and they got that Devin Bush, and they got those guys on that side of the ball that are real tough. And this is another tough matchup on the road in Pittsburgh, with a lot of implications on the line as far as, could be first round bye, could be second, whatever the case may be. And so, guys, Pittsburgh on the road, week 15, another tough matchup.
Man, and you go into their place. So right. So the crowd is going to be, there'll be very few Titan fans in that stadium at all. So, you won't get to hear anything unless we end up winning the game. But it's going to be tough, man. I mean, it's later on in the season, so, we'll know a lot more about Pittsburgh when that happens. But still, they are, and got to remember, they're breaking in a new offense.
Right.
They're totally revamping their offense and everything. So it's going to be interesting. But yeah, they got the same receivers. Offensive line issue is going to be the biggest deal. And of course, the running back, Najee Harris, is going to be interesting to see what kind of shape he's in by the time that game rolls around. Because, as a rookie coming in, you get into the 15th game of the season, man, it's like what my boy Taylor Lewan said, your body is already thinking I'm supposed to be shutting down, getting ready for a bowl game. So it's going to be, that's going to be about the time he hits the wall. So you'll see how that goes. But it's Mike Tomlin, man.
Mm-hmm.
Mike Tomlin teams will be ready. They will play physical. And defensively, they're going to be on point regardless.
Mm-hmm.
And that's going to be the hard struggle for us, is just being able to score on that defense.
Mm-hmm.
And so we'll just have to wait and see. But that's going to be a tough game. It's going to be a game we're going to need, moving forward. But it's going to be a tough one.
I agree with you, G. Witt. If you think about the game that they played this past year, the Pittsburgh really kind of stifled Derrick Henry a little bit, and I think we went away from him a little too soon in the game. But I mean, the game got out of hand early, and then we tried to come back and ran out of time. So you can't dig a hole like that. But this is one of them games where you say put your big boy pads on, and come ready to play. It's going to be both teams. To your point about Pittsburgh changing the offense up, they want to. If we can get Big Ben to have to throw the ball 40 times, I like our chances, because I think as the season gets later in the year and Big Ben is getting on up there, I'd rather him throw it 40 times, because that doesn't sound like it bodes well for Pittsburgh. But yeah, this is going to be a game where whoever can control the line of scrimmage on both sides of the ball will come out victorious. But another tough matchup, and again, late in the season, playoff implications, conference game. I mean, who knows? That could be a game that you could see replayed 4 or 5 weeks from now, depending on how the seasons line out. But definitely going to be a tough game.
Right. And guys, we appreciate y'all joining us for another episode of Halftime Adjustments. Eddie Arnell, G. Witt, Mr. J. Lou.
Tighten up, baby.
Thank you for the questions and the comments. Keep them coming. Now, let me get this one in, because Dion is one of our boys here. And he says, as for a backup running back, here's a wild idea. Y'all see that?
Yeah.
Bring in Le'Veon Bell.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Taylor says Le'Veon Bell is Clowney's twins.
Wow. Wow. And y'all talk about me.
Yeah, Lamonte, we agree, man. Pittsburgh jumped on us last year here. And, it just took a lot to come back from that deficit, down by 20 points at halftime, 27-7 at halftime. It just took a lot to come back with a physical defense. Now, Pittsburgh's offense really wasn't the issue. We just couldn't get, our defense was the issue, because we couldn't get out the field on third down.
Thank you.
And the offense that Pittsburgh was putting out there, it wasn't like they were just killing us. It's just we couldn't get out the field on third down. We couldn't make the sack when it needed to be. Couldn't make the tackle. And so, just like Mr. J. Lou said, it was just a mountain to come back from. And I think you'll see a different matchup this time. We'll see. We'll see if this defense continues to progress. And when we work out a few little kinks on the offensive line, I think you'll see a better matchup this time going into Pittsburgh. And so the week after that, you can't, man. I mean, this keeps going on, doesn't it? You got the 49ers at home. Now let's go back to last year with this football team, because this football team was plagued with a lot of injuries. They lost Kittles. They lost Joey Bosa. And a lot of,
they lost Jimmy G.
Yeah, Jimmy G. And so now, and on top of that, they were still in playoff contention up until the last few weeks of the season without their big dogs. And so now everybody's back. They're a tough matchup because they're a physical football team that likes to run the football and play tough defense at home. Late in the season, it's an NFC game. It's not a lot riding on it. We know how Vrabel does that. He said, like he did a couple years ago against the Saints, he said, okay, I'm gonna rest Derrick Henry because of the hamstring. At this point of the season, it might be the same situation. But again, here's another physical matchup at home against another playoff caliber football team.
And it's on a short week. It's a Thursday night game. I think the only thing you like about it is that San Francisco got to come across the country. But, to go from Pittsburgh to the 49ers, I mean, they almost mirror each other from a physicality standpoint. So I like what you said, Ed. It could be one of those Vrabel Belichickian type games where you say we don't see a lot of folks play, especially given, how we just look in the standings and know we got AFC after those two, and then with it being a short week. But again, another physical game. The 49ers, they're 1 or 2 years removed from the Super Bowl.
Right.
So, I mean, I expect them to fully be back healthy and be ready to play this year. So again, another game back to back. Got to put your big boy pads on and come ready to play.
I mean,
Absolutely.
Nick Bosa. I'm sorry, I said Joey Bosa, Nick Bosa. But go ahead, G.
Nick Bosa.
Yeah, my bad.
Yeah. But that's the thing about this game. People would, they're dogging them out because they didn't make the playoffs. But when you have that many injuries and you're still in contention, like you said, Eddie, until the last few weeks of the season, that just lets you know how much talent and coaching this team has. And it's going to be a rough game because even if to Mr. J. Lou point, they got to travel across the country. The problem with that is that they got a running game. And when a running game will travel regardless of what, weather conditions, whatever the case may be, a running game always travels. The weak spot for them, in all honesty, is going to be Jimmy G, and we don't know if he's going to be playing by then or if that number 1 draft pick they had this year, he's going to be playing. But that's the weak spot right there, because you get pressure on Jimmy G, he will throw the ball up. He will, give the ball up for grabs. So that's going to be the whole key. Again, this is going to be interesting for us because our defense is going to come to play in both of those games, man. Our defense is going to, it's going to be the polar opposite. Our defense is going to have to help win the game for our offense, because our offense is going to struggle in both of those games, unless Derrick Henry just has a monster 2-game stretch, which is always possible.
Yeah, Lamont, man, we appreciate your comments. Lamont is funny. He said, y'all tripping. The road through the Super Bowl might go through Nashville. We're not saying they won't. We're not saying they can't. But we just being optimistic. So let me say this, G, and I'll let you go. On paper, yeah, the Titans look good. They have a lot of talent. But until they get on the field and put it together, you can say all you want. It's just like, G, when we was on this show, or a couple years ago, we brought in Clowney, and everybody was like, oh man, top 10 defense, number 1 defense. This is the Super Bowl championship defense. What did we say?
We told them.
Exactly. And so you can't, it looks good on paper. I'll give you credit. The defense looks great. It's good to have Julio, but until we put it on the field and put it together, you can't say that right now. You just got to see what happens. Once it gets on the field and stop playing. That's all we say.
And the thing you got to remember, let's just be real about it. We're talking about the quality of the opponent. Mm-hmm. And one thing we all got to remember, and everybody needs to remember, there really are no bad teams in the NFL. They're just good, and there's some decent teams, there's some good teams, there's some better teams. Mm-hmm. Okay, you can get beat by a decent team.
Yep.
You just got to understand and recognize that. I was watching Houston this weekend, and Lovie Smith has got that defense balling.
I know it.
I'm like, okay, so now you see what you have to deal with that. And I'm watching the Dolphins and the Bears, and I'm looking at the Dolphins defense, and I'm like, oh my God, these jokers are off the chain. So you're watching these teams, you're looking at them, and like, you just got to be real about it. You got to be real. We got to come and play. If we want to go to the Super Bowl and win the Super Bowl, everybody's got to bring their big boy pants. We can't have somebody like a Dez Fitzpatrick on the field that doesn't want to block.
Oh, God.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can't have a Fred Brown, the team that ain't gonna run a good route to get open.
I'm loving the comments, man. I'm loving the comments. Keep them coming. I'm cracking up, man, because the comments are great. So Lamont said, we only lost 5 games still. That's true. We only lost 5 games last year. That's true. But when it came down to it in the playoffs, what happened? What got you beat is what was bad all year long was your defense couldn't get out the field on 3rd down. And then your offense struggled because we couldn't run the football. And so, hey, like I said, it's great. I'm excited. I feel great about this football team this year. I think we're going to make a lot of noise, and we'll be there. We'll be in the mix for the championship this year. I truly believe that. But, it's a long season. A lot can happen. But I do think we got a championship quality football team right this year for this season.
Hey, the thing I like about it, and let's just be real about it. When we saw them, granted, Atlanta's not the best team out there and everything, but what you saw was the aggressiveness on both sides of the ball. You saw them playing hard. You saw the backups coming in, being aggressive and playing. Right. And again, that's what you want to see. You want to see them being aggressive. You want to see the backups being aggressive because they're going to have to play. Let's just be real about it. They're going to have to play this year. So the bottom line is you got to be ready. Do we have a good team? Absolutely. But we're also going to be playing good quality opponents, regardless of what the pundits say. Mm. I don't care. That schedule is rough, and you just got to recognize that fact. And yeah, we can win. We can win all of them, to be honest with you. But, you got to be real about who you're playing against.
Yeah, because the next week you got Miami at home, and see how tough they were. And they were, right there in the playoff mix as well. They added some weapons. Will Fuller, which he's currently suspended right now. Jalen Waddle, they drafted. They got Bernardrick McKinney from the Texans, the middle linebacker, and also signed Jason McCourty to that secondary with Xavier Howard that led the league with 10 interceptions last year. And so you got a tough Miami team on the road. The AFC game could have a lot of implications on playoff seeding at this point. And then you finish up with Houston. And so, Tannehill struggled in the playoffs. We got that. But, this team has really got to be hitting on all cylinders to win. And that offense, you can't have one side of the offense not producing and expect Tannehill. When we count on him to throw more than 30 times a game, it's a bad formula for this football team. But I'm excited. This defense is good and it's aggressive. And I like what I've seen so far. We hadn't even seen the starters yet. And so that's what's more exciting is that you hadn't seen the starters yet put it together. And it's just great to see so far in preseason.
Yeah, no, and I'm excited about this week, man. I think this week we really will see a measuring stick to go down there and really go against the Super Bowl champs. I mean, if you look at Tampa Bay, they running it back. They brought everybody back. So you're getting to practice. I think we practiced 2 days,
yeah.
2 days or so with the Super Bowl champions, and then it probably will be a vanilla game of all twos come Saturday, just because of the practice. But I think that's a good measuring stick for where you want to be, to see how you measure up against the best, and you're going against the best. So I definitely look forward to that this week.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing about it, man. Like I said, it's just one of them things, man. I believe in this team, and like I said, like you said, Eddie, I'm just happy to see the aggressiveness that I'm seeing from the second and third level players. That's what you want to see. And again, this practice this week with Tampa Bay, I think it's going to be a good one because ones to go against ones, twos against twos, and you're just going to see how good you are. It's a good measuring stick because we know Tampa Bay has a quality defense. Let's just be real about it. Their DC is a top-notch DC. Just remember, he had the Jets defense playing lights out for the longest, even when they had no offense. So you got to stop and think about those situations as well. And your boy Bruce Arians is going to air the ball out. So your secondary and your D line is going to get tested. So that's the bottom line, what we got to deal with here. So it's going to be interesting to see. But this is a good team for the Titans, as far as I'm concerned. I like what I saw Friday night, so I'm looking forward to seeing the game on Saturday.
Right. And what does Ric Flair say? To be the man, you've got to beat the man. So if you want to beat the champ, you got to go in there and play the champ and beat him, right? You want to be the champ. And so, like you said, it'd be a good measuring stick this week. I hope they show some of it so we can see the one, at least get some video on Twitter, some ones versus ones, the offensive line in particular, and our defensive line going against their offensive line. And so we'll see what happens, man. So it's exciting. I'm glad to see that, the talent that's here and the coaching changes that we made so far have paid off. And, it's a lot to look forward to in 2021 as far as this version of the Titans go. And so, again, we thank you for all the comments and all the support of the show. Share the show. Get us out there. This is your man, Eddie Arnett, my man, G with Mr. J. Lou for Halftime Adjustments. Next week, we'll come with y'all at 6 p.m. So be looking for that 6 p.m. next week. That's Central Time. And so be looking out for that information. And we'll talk about the Tampa Bay game and see what happened for the two-tone blue after week 2 preseason game. And as we move through it, maybe we'll see some more Bud this week, some more Caleb this week, progressing their comeback, and hopes those guys being really ready earlier in the season than what was earlier projected.
They did say Bud today. Bud did a lot more team drills today and didn't have no brace on, so that's a step in the right direction for him. And I think Farley as well was in some more team one-on-ones today as well. So that's all good process. You like to see that.
Well, here's the thing that tells you a little bit about this team. When your number 1 draft pick knows he's not going to play, knows basically he's not really supposed to dress, and he goes up and tells the coach, "I want to go because I just want to see what it feels like. I want to just be there. Go through the warm-ups and everything." It shows you about the attitude on this team and how they are coming together as a unit. Because again, and you see it really, in all honesty, you see it in Vrabel, in the way he's conducting himself. Like you said, Mr. J. Lou, about the defense is on and he's got the mic over his head, and he's just listening in. He's letting Shane Bourne do his job. So that's what you want to see. Again, this team is coming together, and again, you got to remember, the one thing about Vrabel, now Vrabel is a Belichickian disciple, and he uses the first half of the season to get the team ready for the second half of the season. So, we're going to see some things. He's going to try some things, and some may work, some may not work. But all he's doing is trying to get the team ready for November and December stretch when it's going to count, and he wants to be in that hunt for the playoffs and for home field advantage if he can get it. Because it's better to not have to travel than to travel. We saw that 2 years ago.
Right.
After a while traveling, where's you out?
Deion said, well, Isaiah Wilson was the number 1 draft pick. I don't think he had that mentality. You're right. He
Not
didn't.
at all.
At all.
Far from it. Far from it. So, guys, thank you again for joining us for another episode of Halftime Adjustment. Hey, tomorrow night's practice, man, is live, and we plan on being there. And so if we see y'all out there, come up to it, let us know you support the show. We'll give you a shout out or whatnot. But maybe we'll get some footage from there, get some live commentary of what's going on. And hey, it's gonna be exciting to see it live for the first time this year.
Yeah,
I'm last 2 years.
I'm looking forward to it, man, because it's been 2 years since we actually had to go to we got a chance to go to a practice.
Exactly.
So I just want to see them running through the drills, man, and see how they work and see what's going on, especially with these rookies that we got coming in, man. Because I was trying to get these names together of the players who were on the field Friday night, because I was like, okay, I don't know these guys.
Right. It was some out there that wasn't listed on the roster before the game.
And you was watching, so what they got to be down to
85. I think 85 Tuesday.
Yeah, it's a little quicker this year, because then the next one they got to be down to 53, right?
No, they're going 90, 85, 75. Then I think 53.
Okay.
Yeah.
53. I think the last 4th preseason game, third one, will go in with 75, and then I think they go to 53 right after that.
Right.
Okay.
That's
because there's only 3 preseason games. Yeah, that's right. Okay.
That's going to be interesting.
Yeah, so next week, guys, we'll be here 6 p.m. So check us out. Eddie Arnell, G with Mr. J. Lou for Halftime Adjustment, man. We are out of here. Peace.
Peace.